December 1963. Sydney hit 44 degrees Celsius. No air conditioning in homes, no bottled water, no weather apps warning you to stay inside. Just you, the heat, and the absolute certainty that you were going to survive it the same way your parents did, and their parents before them. Australian summers in the 1960s weren't just hot, they were a test of endurance that shaped an entire generation. Today we're looking back at what those blazing summers really looked like and why they were completely different from anything we experience now. 1. Sleeping on the veranda or in the backyard. When the temperature inside your house hit 35 degrees and stayed there all night, you didn't suffer through it. You moved outside. Every family had their summer sleeping routine. Mum would drag mattresses out onto the back veranda. Dad would set up stretchers in the yard. Kids would claim spots under the hill's hoist where there might be a whisper of breeze. You'd lie there in your pyjamas, staring up at the stars, listening to the cicadas screaming in the trees. The concrete was still radiating heat from the day. Sometimes you'd wet a sheet and drape it over yourself. The evaporation would cool you down for maybe 20 minutes before it dried out completely. Your neighbours were doing the exact same thing. You could hear them. Mr. Patterson snoring 3 houses down. The Johnson kids arguing about who got the best spot. Dogs panting in the darkness. Nobody thought twice about it. When it was too hot to sleep inside, you slept outside. Simple as that. You'd wake up at dawn covered in mosquito bites, but at least you'd slept. 2. The iceman was a summer hero. Not everyone had a proper fridge in the early 60s. Plenty of families still relied on ice chests, and in summer that meant the iceman was essential. He'd come around 3 times a week instead of the usual 2. His truck loaded with massive blocks of ice, dripping water all down the street. Kids would swarm that truck like seagulls. He'd chip off pieces with his ice pick and hand them out. You'd suck on that ice like it was gold. The grown-ups would buy extra blocks, one in the ice chest for food. Another one they'd chip up and put in the bath with cold water. Instant plunge pool. Some families would put a block in a tin tub on the back veranda, set up a fan behind it. Poor man's air conditioning. 3. Every house had canvas water bags. You wanted cold water in summer? You used a canvas water bag, and they were hanging off every veranda post in Australia. They were made of thick canvas, held maybe 2 gallons of water, and they worked on evaporation. You'd fill them up, hang them in the shade, and the water would seep through the canvas. As it evaporated, it cooled the water inside. The water was never actually cold, lukewarm at best, but compared to water that had been sitting in the tank in 40-degree heat, it was a miracle. You'd cup your hands under the little brass tap at the bottom. The water would pour out, slightly earthy tasting from the canvas. You'd drink straight from your hands, water running down your chin and onto your shirt. Nobody drank water from bottles. The canvas bag was your water source, and it was perfectly normal. Brushing to 4. The public pool was absolutely packed. Summer holidays meant the local pool, and it was chaos. Beautiful, crowded, chlorinated chaos. The pool would open at 8 in the morning, and there'd already be a queue. By 10 o'clock, you couldn't see the bottom of the pool for all the bodies. Kids everywhere screaming, bombing, doing handstands. The whole pool churning with activity. The water was absolutely shocking. Chlorine levels that would probably be illegal now. Your eyes would be red and burning within minutes. But nobody cared. It was wet and it was cooler than the air. You'd stay all day, pack sandwiches, buy an ice block from the canteen, then straight back in the water. Your skin would go wrinkly. Your hair would go green from the chlorine. Your shoulders would burn despite mum telling you to reapply zinc cream. By closing time at 6 o'clock, you could barely walk. Exhausted, sunburned, starving, absolutely content. 5. No air conditioning meant different survival tactics. Air conditioning existed in the 1960s, but it was for businesses, not homes. Maybe a fancy office building or a department store, not your house. So you developed strategies. Windows and doors open on opposite sides of the house, create a cross breeze. Wet towels over the windows. The evaporation would cool the room down slightly. You'd have to re-wet them every hour. The bathroom was the coolest room in the house. Small, tiled, usually on the south side. Families would congregate in there during the worst heat of the day. You'd run a cold bath and just sit in it, reading, listening to the radio, staying in there until your fingers went pruny. The fridge was sacred in summer. You'd open it and just stand there, letting the cold air wash over you. Mum would yell at you for wasting electricity, but you didn't care. 6. Work stopped in the heat. When it hit 40 degrees, things just stopped. Not officially, no government mandate, just common sense. Tradies would start at 5 in the morning to beat the heat. By noon they were done, too dangerous to work. Factories had minimal ventilation. Workers would be soaked in sweat within minutes. Shops would close early. The department stores stayed open because they had air conditioning, but the small shops would shut up by 3 o'clock. School would send kids home early on extreme days. No point keeping them trapped in brick buildings that felt like ovens. People would have a beer at lunch, 2 beers, 3. What else were you going to do? Sit in the pub where it was slightly cooler and wait for the day to end. 7. Fans were your only option. Every home had fans. Multiple fans. Pedestal fans. Ceiling fans. Those little desk fans that rattled and shook. You'd position them strategically. One fan pulling air in through the window, another pushing it out the other side, create a wind tunnel through your house. The noise was constant, that low hum mixed with the rhythmic clicking when the fan oscillated. Ceiling fans were expensive but worth it. You'd lie in bed watching it spin, mesmerised. The pedestal fans had metal blades, not plastic like today. If you stuck your finger in there, you'd know about it. You'd put a bowl of ice in front of the fan. The air would blow across it and feel slightly cooler. Slightly, barely noticeable. But you'd convince yourself it helped. 8. Clothing was minimal and practical. In summer, you wore as little as legally and socially acceptable. Men walked around in shorts and nothing else. No shirt, just shorts and thongs. Women wore light cotton dresses, sleeveless, short, anything to stay cool. Kids basically lived in their bathers. You'd put them on in the morning and wear them all day, under the sprinkler, at the pool, in and out of the bath. No point changing. School uniforms were torture. Long grey pants, long-sleeve shirts, ties, wool blazers for assembly. Kids would be red-faced and miserable by mid-morning. Thongs were your footwear, always. You'd burn your feet on the hot pavement, but you dealt with it. The asphalt would literally bubble in the heat. You'd have to run from patch of shade to patch of shade. 9. Concrete and asphalt were torture cities, were concrete jungles in the worst way. No trees, no shade, just endless heat-absorbing surfaces. The roads would get so hot you could fry an egg on them. People actually did it as a novelty. The asphalt would go soft and sticky. Your car would be unbearable. Vinyl seats that would burn the back of your legs. Metal seatbelt buckles that would brand you if you touched them. Steering wheels too hot to hold. No air conditioning in cars either. You drive with all the windows down, hot wind blasting. Your face. Playgrounds were worse. Metal slides in full sun. Touch them and you'd get burned. Swings with metal chains. Monkey bars that could sear your palms. Kids still played on them though. You'd wait until late afternoon when things cooled off slightly. 10. Water restrictions were constant. Summer meant water restrictions. Every single summer, the dams would drop, the government would panic, restrictions would start. You couldn't water your garden except on certain days. Even numbered houses on Tuesdays and Saturdays, odd numbers on Wednesdays and Sundays. Washing your car with a hose, forget it. Bucket and sponge only. Showers were limited, 3 minutes maximum. Mum would time you. Standing outside the bathroom with a stopwatch. You'd wash dishes in a sink of water, not under running water. Save it all. Reuse it on the garden if you could. The lawn would die, gardens would brown off. Nobody complained. Everyone was in the same boat. 11. Summer storms brought relief and chaos. Summer storms in the 60s were events. Massive, violent, spectacular. You'd feel it building all day. The air getting heavier, the pressure dropping. Everyone watching the horizon for clouds. Then it would hit. The temperature would drop 10 degrees in minutes. The wind would roar in. Lightning would crack across the sky. Rain like you wouldn't believe. Bucketing down, bouncing off the streets. The gutters would overflow instantly. Kids would run outside in their bathers, dancing in the rain, getting absolutely drenched. Pure joy. The storm would last maybe an hour. Then it would pass, leaving everything steaming and wet and slightly cooler. The aftermath was chaos. Branches down, flooded streets, power lines knocked out. But nobody minded. The heat had broken. 12. Corner shops were cooling stations. The corner shop in summer was a sanctuary, a refuge, a place to escape the heat. They had fans, usually a small fridge, sometimes even an air conditioning unit if the owner was doing. Well, kids would go there and not buy anything, just stand around in the cool air. The owner would tolerate it for a bit, then shoo you out. You'd buy an ice block, Sunny Boy, Rainbow, lemonade, sixpence. You'd stand under the shop awning eating it, trying to make it last. The owner knew everyone. knew your family, knew your order before you asked. Mum would send you down for bread or milk or the paper, but really, she was giving you an excuse to get out of the hothouse. A little break. 13. Summer was just different. Here's the truth about Australian summers in the 1960s. They were harder, hotter, less comfortable in every possible way. No air conditioning, no bottled water, no weather apps warning you when extreme heat was coming, no cooling centres, no public health advisories. You just endured it. That was life. Summer came, it was hot, you dealt with it. But there was something else too, a sense of shared experience. Everyone was suffering together, everyone had their tricks. Everyone looked out for each other. You knew your neighbours were sleeping outside too. You knew the iceman would come. You knew the pool would be packed. You knew the routine. Kids today wouldn't survive 1 week of a 1960s summer. The heat would break them. The lack of entertainment, the boredom, the discomfort. But for those who lived through it, those summers made you tough, resilient, adaptable. We've gained so much. Climate control, convenience, comfort. But we've lost something too. That sense of community, that shared struggle, that ability to just cope. We've made life easier, more comfortable, more controlled. Air conditioning in every home, water on demand, technology that warns us when the heat is coming. But ask anyone who lived through those blazing 60s summers and they'll tell you they were hard, but they were real. There was something raw and honest about facing the heat with nothing but ingenuity and determination. We've gained comfort and convenience. We've lost that shared struggle, that sense of community forged in the furnace of an Australian summer. Those summers shaped a generation, made them tougher, more resilient, more resourceful. Which one of these memories hit you hardest? What do you remember most about those scorching Australian summers?